Welcome back to another episode of Who's Your Daddy podcast, where we spend 30 minutes in our house trying to figure out how to set up all of this electronic equipment, and then we get on the microphone and we talk about whatever comes to mind.
Exactly.
But today we have guests to help us out, which I'm very excited for.
We do. We have Thomas and Scott, the VonBKs. They are gay dads living in Texas who love all things food, travel, and Taylor Swift, with their beautiful twin boys who are now 9, 10?
9. Yes.
9. Because when we met them, they were, I think, 8.
Yeah, they would have been. Oh my gosh.
And you guys are from Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
But not originally, which we will find out.
We will get into
one
that.
of you has a little bit of an accent.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. No prizes for guessing where from.
So first, I just want to get into a little bit of like who you are, where you grew up, and then if you want to like loop that into maybe like your coming out story, coming of age a little bit, go ahead and do that.
I'll go first. Well, I'm Thomas. I grew up in Ireland, in rural Ireland, actually, in a place called Carlow, which is about an hour or so south of Dublin, in a really small town. The youngest of... Yeah, very small. We don't even have traffic lights. The youngest of 4. I have 3 sisters. Had a great childhood, great parents.
Did you grow up Irish Catholic? Is that a thing?
Was, I guess.
We grew up like singing Irish Catholic hymns when I was a child.
Did you really?
Yes.
Irish Catholic hymns?
Like it was very Irish
I
Catholic.
knew you were Irish. I didn't know you were that Irish.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
That's like really Irish.
Like every wedding
Everybody
there was...
assumes we're automatically devout Catholics, but all that has
But
changed.
you grew up
over
with
the
all
last
the
50
rituals.
All the rituals.
That go along with
Yeah. I think it was kind of more tradition than the religious side of things for us. So like going to church and all that was just part of, well, in our house at least, tradition more than kind of like the religious aspect of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, so what is the town called again?
So I grew up, so the main town would be Carlow, where I grew up is like the small village is Hackettstown.
Got it. And this
Yeah,
is in
very
Southern
small.
Ireland?
It's he said south of Dublin,
South of Dublin. Got it.
Yeah.
which I've never been to Ireland.
Well, you need to go.
I want to so bad.
With all your travels, you haven't been? Come on.
No, and I know, and my family has like it's like decently Irish. Of the 5 things that we are, we're like decently Irish.
5 things.
Mostly
Oh,
Irish
you should
and
go. Ireland is great in the summer though. In the summer,
in the summer. I know that's what I
Yeah.
say about like here because
it rains a lot. It's green for a reason. So
yes, same.
if you like the rain, go to Ireland.
It's been 11 years since I've been to Ireland.
Really?
And that was during my rambunctious, crazy summer of love through Europe.
Can you imagine?
Which we are definitely going to talk about in a future
A story or
episode because that summer was life-changing for multiple people.
Well, I'm always curious because it's obviously a unique experience. I think growing up gay, depending on where you grow up, like
yeah.
growing up gay, depending on where you live.
Geographically,
what is that like?
community-wise, all that.
So what is that like in like a small town in Ireland?
Well, I kind of knew that I was always different, but like where I grew up, you know, it's like a close-knit community, which you would automatically think it's going to be more difficult because everybody's just going to know. But I didn't officially come out until I left and started college. I was actually in my 3rd year. I was studying in the Netherlands and Germany, and I was coming back every weekend, but not actually going to see my parents. And so the questions were starting to arise, like, why are you not coming back to see us? You're coming home every weekend. So I did go home one particular weekend. Left it until like the afternoon that I was leaving to go back to Amsterdam to say, hey, I've got something to tell you. But I was really nervous because obviously, you know, you're waiting, well, forever basically, because you always know that you're different, that you're gay.
Yeah.
But it was no big revelation at all.
Really?
No. I think it was just more of kind of like the confirmation
Yeah.
to my parents that kind of got them more. But like a couple of weeks later, they were meeting my other half at the time, And yeah, no, it's never been an issue. And then we had like the referendum on same-sex marriage and equality in Ireland, and like my dad and my parents were like the first to vote, and getting everybody to go to get everybody out and vote for equality.
About when did that happen, the
It
referendum?
was 2015, 2016.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
The first country to vote for gay marriage by popular vote rather than by legislation.
Really?
So
And that was 2015.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing, like a really exciting time in Ireland.
That's so much later than I thought too, you know, for a popular vote.
Well, I
for
knew
gay
that Ireland
marriage.
wasn't that much different than the U.S. But I couldn't remember that they were.
Ireland's not that much different from the U.S.
No,
I'm just
saying
taking that statement solo.
no.
Like,
That's not what I said. I'm saying that it's not much like the timing.
Time-wise.
Time-wise.
I knew that the
yeah.
timing of it wasn't that much different
Oh,
than
I'm
the
giving you
U.S.
a hard time. I'm giving you a hard time.
Gosh.
Did you know anybody who was gay growing up? Like, was there anyone in town that you're like, oh, that person's gay? I have like
Well,
at
you
least
were-
the idea of like these people.
So I had like a really good friend in high school. So our schooling system is a lot different in Ireland than it is here. There's like no middle school equivalent. It's just like primary to secondary.
Okay.
And so you go into secondary school when you're about like 12 or 13, and it's kind of like the awkward years are starting. And growing up in the country, like everybody at school is like really sporty. I was not sporty.
Like rugby? Is this like Heartstopper?
Yeah, rugby, and we have our own version of like football, Gaelic football.
Gay?
Really?
Football?
Gaelic football.
Gaelic
yes.
football.
Wait, what is that?
Tell me more.
Well, it's pretty much, how would you describe it? It's kind of like soccer, but you can use your hands. Yeah.
It's like rugby meets soccer.
Oh
So,
my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
Amazing.
am imagining a lot of things in my mind with like
It could be an
Awakening
hands,
for you.
Yeah. But it's a
hands,
super popular.
soccer,
it's a
and
super-
rugby
super popular
boys,
sport at
and
home.
accents, and my god. They call it Gaelic.
Country air. So there was like this one guy, and he didn't like football or sports at all, and we were in different classes, but we got to know each other really well within like 2 weeks of starting school. And see, he was the one friend that I had all the way through high school, but the two of us
wow.
never actually had the conversation.
Oh wow.
Are
Okay.
you? Are you not?
How do we find each other as gays? Like we're magnets. We just like
Oh yeah. It's true. It's
whether
true.
we're
It
out or
always
not, we
happens.
just kind of
It's
like get together.
coming out then in college, and then like coming into my own, and certainly like being in the Netherlands and Germany, it was kind of like having like the great experience growing up and like feeling protected and everything, and like great parents and stuff. It was kind of like coming of age and like in the big city, and it's where I really came to myself. So I came out when I was 19.
Oh yeah, that's much
Relatively-
sooner
for
than
back then. It was
back then,
relatively
yeah.
young.
yeah. That's
That
quite
is
early.
that is kind of young. I was 24.
And I was
Yeah.
22.
You were 21.
21, 22.
Yeah, 21, 22.
Yeah, that's still
Yeah.
young. That's still young to come out. But thankfully, I'm like one of the lucky ones who like didn't have any issues at all. And I think sometimes you can forget like that, like so many people out there don't have the same experience. So you just have to like remember that you're fortunate, but like not everybody is.
Yeah.
What was the conversation like with your parents and your family? Do you have any siblings?
I have three older sisters.
3 older
yeah.
siblings. Okay.
I think like one of my sisters was just like, "Well, are you sure?" And it's not just a phase. That was like the only question I got. Like my mother was like, "No, you are who you are, and don't change anything." Yeah, it was just more of kind of like he has confirmed our. I don't want to say suspicions, but
What would ever get
thankfully, I was like really forced, but it's always like nerve wracking because you don't know, like no matter how safe you feel, you don't know what the reaction is going to be. Like it's a huge step
right?
to take.
Yeah.
That feeling, the pit in the stomach of
Oh,
just
yeah.
like stomach clenching, just don't know how they're gonna react. That whole, oh my
Exactly.
god, your heart's going.
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Did you have that kind of moment when you came out? Was this over a holiday, or did you just
Yeah,
like come home?
it was actually right after Christmas, so I was home for like a longer weekend.
Yes.
And I have been coming home, and I'd said like, I'm gonna like stop by home, and this weekend I'm gonna tell them, and then I'd like get back to the Netherlands that Monday, and I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't do it. Definitely gonna do it like next weekend. So I kept like building myself up, but I sort of like chickened out at the last minute. And I remember, well, I have more time over the holidays now, so I'm going to do it. So like the week was going by, and like the time to go back was like rapidly approaching, and I was like, I'm not getting on that plane without like.
And you're like, no, this has to happen before I get on that
Yeah.
plane.
Yeah. So I did, and honestly, it was just like a conversation for a couple of minutes, and there never really has been a conversation about it since. But
Right.
it's like they embrace everything like about our family, welcome Scott, they love the boys, and yeah.
Amazing.
I was also wondering, because you mentioned suspicions of like, if we don't want to say the word suspicion, if they had a suspicion of you being gay, but like what do you think could have given it away, other than like you just coming home and not telling them that you're home, seeing people?
I'm thinking about your Eurovision.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Eurovision Song Contest. I mean, that was like my Super Bowl. It probably still is to this day. It's kind of like it's a contest where like each European country would submit like one song every year, and it's like this big like.
Are you explaining Eurovision?
Yes, that's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
We know. We know what Eurovision is.
We are not. We're bad at like following it. I don't know that I've ever watched it, but I do know what Eurovision is because all of our friends from Europe always talk about
it. Think of Celine Dion, think of ABBA.
Yeah.
I think we just need to start having a party every year to celebrate Eurovision.
Isn't it in the UK next year or something?
It was. It's in Sweden.
Sweden this year.
Oh, God.
We should go.
You just said the magic word.
I know. Good luck to getting tickets, though. It's impossible to get tickets.
I don't care. I just want to be in the city.
And because we went to Eurovision one time
2014.
in Copenhagen, and it was just a blast. Like just everything around it with all the people, and they put up big screens so if people can't make it to the venue, they can at least see
like the
what's going on.
atmosphere is amazing. Like,
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've totally gotten off topic.
Yes. So I think if you're like, it's really big, as you know, in the gay community. And I remember like growing up, like 12, 13, 14, like I would like pick out my favorite songs. I would learn the dance routine. I would learn the words, and I'd like make my whole family like sit down and like watch me. And it's kind of like, okay.
Whoa. Oh, you would perform.
No.
Yeah, I mean, they
That's
probably had
amazing.
earplugs in, to be fair to them, but I mean, they sat down and they endured it. So, but I mean, I think as a parent, you kind of just know. You kind of just know.
Yeah, when you're watching your kid perform Eurovision dance.
And I made
choreographed
my
and singing.
costumes. Yeah, you name it, I was there.
Oh my gosh.
I want to see.
He's so talented.
I hope there's home videos of this, and I would love to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my mother kind of like threatens, like every time I go home, do you want to show the boys like you as a kid? And she's holding like the old like cassette tape. I'm like, no, please don't.
All right,
Please don't.
this summer we're going to be watching it.
Yeah, I won't be.
Okay,
so
Scott.
Scott, you did not
it's
grow up
your
in
turn.
Ireland.
No, I grew up in the Dallas area, in a suburb here in Dallas. My dad's from Wisconsin, my mom's from the UK, so they met in Spain and then moved over here. And so I think that's important to like the story as we go on.
Yeah.
I actually did not know. Yeah, I did not.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, I didn't have an awakening as early as Thomas did. I think it's also like as kids in the 90s and 80s, like we didn't have the language to like understand what we were doing. I remember like there was a guy in second grade that I like actually liked, but he had this like, it was when you put like lightning bolts in the side of your head, like shaved.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, he has lightning bolts. So I went like the next week to get my hair cut and got lightning bolts, but I realized it wasn't because like I liked him in the sense of like I thought he was cool. I like actually probably fancied him, but I didn't have the words to use
Core
it.
memories.
Yeah.
Core memories, lightning bolts in the hair.
Yeah, and growing up in Dallas, my parents my dad was military, and I think he wasn't as accepting then as he is now for kind of the LGBTQ community, and so like there were words that he would use and language he would use that would like make me think, oh, this guy actually is
Right.
much a supporter. Certainly they've progressed since then, but that was kind of my kind of upbringing. I was like Thomas. I did not like sports. I hated sports. I would do anything to get.
You're like my spirit twin. I hear you. I was exactly the same growing up. Like I hated sports with a passion.
Yeah. I remember I got in an accident in 5th grade and I had to wear a neck brace, and I was like, yes, I'm out of like PE for a few weeks. And it's so funny because our boys, we ask our boys about like what's their favorite thing at school, and they're like PE, recess, and I was like, I hated recess. Like
Every school.
I actually befriended one of the teachers in elementary school. I was like, can I be your helper during recess? So I didn't have to go outside.
Yeah, recess gave me anxiety.
And you know what was interesting was like I knew I was different in elementary school, and like I remember like being called like a fag and all this stuff in elementary school, and like not really
You're like, what is
realizing
that?
like why. But I always joke like everyone else knew that I was gay before I did.
Yeah.
And I remember those words, and like it was really no, I'm kidding. It was really dark. That was in like 2nd or 3rd grade, and I was like,
Jeez.
because I knew I was different, right? And I didn't know like
Yeah.
how or why or what the reasoning for why I was, right? And you know, thinking about like, you know, you look at the J.C. Penney catalog at like the men in the J.C. Penney. I don't know if you remember the.
Oh,
JC.
we've walked those aisles.
Or I get like the International Male catalog. I don't know if you guys remember that catalog, but it wasn't quite like I wasn't buying underwear from it, right? Like it was just
Right, yeah.
and my parents are seeing this, so they probably knew what was up, right? And then like in middle school, I was a theater kid and really into like theater, and then like in high school, I was like that overachiever. Like I feel like so many like gay guys are like
Yeah.
overachievers, and in high school, I was like, you know, president of this, vice president of that, and all that. And I remember one day I came out to my car, and there was a rainbow flag on the back of my car. Someone had put on my bumper a rainbow flag,
What?
and I was like, what is this about? Like, and of course, like I'm trying to like pull it off the minute because I'm like, people are looking at me, and I'm just like, it was a lot, right? And I didn't think I was gay, or I was trying to like hide it and like keep it all down. And yeah, it was so embarrassing. I was like, this is what I'm having to deal with, right? And you know, I just worked really hard on everything else and just kind of tried to compartmentalize all that.
So just like straight up harassment in high school with people putting, you know,
Yeah.
a rainbow flag on your car.
You know, we eventually have come back to Texas, and like that was my fear of like what we would be received. You know, one of the guys who was in that group that was making fun of me actually like is a gay dad now, and I'm just like, well, obviously,
Wow.
like
No
sometimes the
way.
people that are harassing you about these things actually are trying to project
Right.
themselves on you. So
I was gonna say that I was assuming
Their own
that
insecurities.
you weren't the only person being picked on in high school or being accused of being gay, even in that kind of way of just putting a rainbow flag on your car. But maybe were you noticing or seeing other people being called out for being gay or being kind of put on a trial for it?
I mean, there was one guy I remember in particular. He actually came out during high school in the '90s, and I remember he was like picked on quite a bit, and I was worried like as well about like being too close of friends with him, because then I would be seen as like part of that group, right? Because I was just worried about like what would happen. And I remember I worked in retail in high school, and I remember there was this one time where this guy came up, or his friend like gave his number to me and was like, "Hey, he likes you," and I was like mortified.
In
And
high
I
school?
I went to the back, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like it was just,
I would scream.
yeah.
I'd just scream. They'd hand me the number and I would
In
scream.
high school. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I would do.
But yeah, so I kind of tried to deflect from that, and I like dated girls in high school and in college. I went to SMU in Dallas, which is a fairly conservative, you know,
Southern Methodist?
Southern Methodist University.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
you know, we have the Bush Library there now, and it's just it was very conservative, right? And it's very it wasn't overly diverse. Like it was very much, and I was in a fraternity, and so like everything.
Oh
that
my
goes along with
God.
being in a fraternity.
You have Texas, and then you have Texas. And Southern Methodist University is in Texas.
It's
I
technically a
can't get low
Christian
enough for
university,
it.
right? Is it a private Christian
Methodist
university?
University, yeah, it's a private university.
And you were in the frat, so you were like Texas.
Yeah,
Really?
wearing
Yeah,
the cowboy boots, doing the date dashes, like, all that type of stuff, right?
What is a date dash?
So that's where the sororities, and we did it for fraternities too, where you had like, you'd have your fraternity meeting or sorority meeting, and like they'd be like, all right, we're having a date dash tonight, go find a date. And you had to like go find someone to like go on a date with. But not just you on a date. It'd be like they'd have a venue and it'd be a party, right? But you'd have to be like invited.
Oh my God, you just struck a memory.
That's stressful.
I had something similar at my university.
So Matthew went to a Christian university as well.
Yeah. We just did an episode on this and I didn't even think about it. We did this thing and I cannot remember what it was called. It was not called Date Dash, but it was called something else. And it was on a Friday. And I think we'd have about maybe one a month. And it was like there'd be a Friday and we have sister floors. And it'd be like you have the male floor, you have the all male floor, and you have the all female floor. And the all male floor would ask each of the individual females, would you go on this date with me, or would you go on this like date night with me? So then every month you're basically just being forced to take
on a date.
A random woman on a date with you. It's like this chivalry thing where like, yes, you have to go ask. It was like asking someone to prom.
How else are you gonna get that ring by spring?
Right? I know. It was so bizarre. And I remember feeling this immense amount of pressure of like, oh my God, I have to find a date and go to this event where you're just put on trial, put in front of everybody on a public date with somebody that you're not interested in at all.
Put on trial. This is how dramatic we are as gays. We're like, having to go to dinner with a woman is basically like going to court.
I mean, you're in front of all of your peers. All of your peers are on this date together. And the irony is...
Literally, what could be worse for you?
Oh, but the irony is that most of us were gay anyway. So we're all like at these boring ass dates with these women that we're like, we're not interested in.
Yes, that's true. Some of my fraternity brothers ended up coming out later on. Yeah. Which is shocking. I'm like, wait, you were all kind of hooking up with each other, and I didn't know that any of you were gay in college. It was, it's a whole other podcast in of itself. So I ended up going. I did a semester abroad in Spain. Actually, one of my classmates was DJ Pierce. Shangela was on my same study abroad program.
Oh my God.
We would like travel on the weekends together, and he was like this, DJ. He's just like this big character, right? And he was back then. And I remember like he would like disappear and we wouldn't see him and we're like, where was he? And come to find out he was in Chueca all the time, which is like the gay area in Madrid. But we would travel and stuff. And I remember I was in Madrid and I was like, sometimes walking around, I try to walk like in the streets of Chueca, but then I was like, oh, this feels like I can't. It was just this weird like.
Yeah, you're like, do I jump in? Do I
dance? Like, I'm still trying to like figure myself out. And again, I guess there's something around like when I fancy someone, I want to like do something like them. There was this guy who had an eyebrow piercing, and I fancied him. And so I decided to get an eyebrow piercing because that would be cool. It was a bet.
This is what? Like somewhere between 2000 2010.
2002 to 3 was
Yeah, okay. I am imagining exactly what this eyebrow piercing man looks like in Spain, and I am all
You're all over it too. You're there.
So I'm thinking Regina George bought army pants and flip flops, so I got army pants and flip flops.
Exactly.
This is exactly like the lightning bolt thing in the hair too.
Yeah.
Like you see the lightning bolt in the hair.
My piercing and everything else. And I ended up like, again, I was not quite there yet, but I remember going to the beach in South Beach, and there was like the gay part of the South Beach. And I remember there was like almost a rope, and I would like sit on the other side of it. I'm like, I'm not in the gay beach, but I'm next to the gay beach. And then I went back to college and dated this girl for a while, and I remember like going to meet her family, and she had a twin brother, and I was like, oh, he's kind of nice. And I was like, wait, this isn't right.
This is wrong.
And we ended up breaking up. And then I started dating
the twin.
A girl. No. Oh my God.
That would have been an amazing twist.
I would have been like, whoa.
And then I started dating a girl out of college, and it was just one of these things of like, was my sister going to like get engaged to her boyfriend at the time, or was I going to get engaged to this girl? And there was
Oh,
like,
you were serious.
and we were dating for like a year and a bit, and I remember like
Jeez.
eventually we broke up, and I had started dating a guy like briefly, and I got an opportunity to go to the Middle East, and I went, I'm taking that. So I moved to the Middle East.
Yeah.
And it was this like liberating thing because I had been in Dallas most of my life, except for Spain, and I was able to like get away from my family and kind of become my own, and that's where I like had my first like what I considered my first boyfriend. So anyway, I was there and I started like coming out to a couple of my like work friends, and then after that, kind of a year, I think it was a year and a half, almost 2 years of being in the Middle East, traveling and kind of being out, but not, because I remember my client when I was leaving, he's like, hope you and your wife enjoy your life or something. I was like, okay. Obviously, I kept this under the radar for a bit. And then I worked in the UK, and then I worked in Ireland and met Thomas in Ireland. And I had come out to my sister by that point in time. I had come out to some of my friends. And then my parents were over in Ireland visiting, and we had been dating a couple months at that point in time. And I was like, I remember being at dinner and I'm like, there's something I have to tell you. And they're like, yeah, tell us. Like, it was almost like, same thing as Thomas's story. Like, they knew, like...
Just waiting for the confirmation.
They were waiting for the confirmation. And my sister was like, you need to tell mom and dad, because she felt this great, like, pressure to, like, keep it... Like, my parents would ask questions about me, and she's like, I don't know, but she kind of felt like she had to hide, right? And so... Yeah, I came out to them at dinner, and then we went to a gay bar right after that. Now, I did say...
Wait, what?
And then Thomas showed up. Like, it was just like...
They went with you?
I'm gay, and I have a boyfriend, and if you want, we can go to a gay bar across the street, and I can text him, and he can be there in an hour.
Whoa.
You just decided to go real fast. I don't think my parents have ever been to a gay bar. I don't think I'd ever take my parents to a gay bar. I just like, they're supportive. They're so lovely. They are allies. I don't know. I just don't think they would know what to do. Actually, my dad would probably be fine. My dad can talk to a wall. I think just my mom would just be like, how do I act? Like, she's so used to being in church. I just don't know what she would do in a gay bar.
I've been kicked out of gay bars because of my mom.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wait,
she was wilder than I.
Can we talk a little bit? Where were you in the Middle East? Because having a gay awakening in the Middle East sounds a little unique.
So I worked in Doha, Qatar. So
okay.
Dangerous.
So there aren't gay bars there.
Exactly. There aren't.
No, but no, there are no gay bars. And I remember like you just kind of know. It's one of those things, like once you're in that circle, you kind of know like who's gay and who's
So you
not.
ended up in a circle of other gay men
Living in Qatar.
like very under the radar in Qatar.
Yeah.
Did
Wow.
it feel dangerous? Were you like kind of, I don't know, living in fear in Qatar? Or was it like,
No.
Isn't it like illegal? I mean, it's
But
like not a very
You
friendly
don't
place.
you don't go hold hands or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Wow.
very, yeah. But I was traveling a lot on the weekends too, so I wasn't always in the
Sure.
Middle East. So
Based in the Middle East.
I was based in the Middle East, but like weekends, I was I would
okay.
fly to different places. So I go to Europe or Asia or
Yeah, that's true. So you two meet in.
Dublin.
Did you say
Dublin.
you met in Ireland or you met in Dublin?
in Dublin. I was on a project there, and Thomas was working there. Well, living there.
So then,
Living
He's from
there
there.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
so then you meet, but you're like, well, I'm from the U.S., but I'm living in Doha, and you're from Ireland, but we like really like each other, and let's try and figure out
yeah, so how did that
to make this
happen?
work.
How did that work?
Yeah,
Like-
I had finished with the Doha bit at that point in time, but I was based in Dallas, but working in Ireland. And yeah, we dated for a while. What's interesting was my manager at the time, it was really interesting. Like on a project of 4 people, 3 of them were gay men, which doesn't happen much. And he's like, you like this guy, don't you? And I was like, yes, I do like this guy. He's like, well, you need to figure out a way to make it work. And I was like, yes.
Aw.
Well, so we met at the end of August, and your
August.
project was coming to an end.
End of the
just
year.
right before the
Yeah.
holidays. And so you were moving back pretty much stateside. right then.
Oh my God.
And, that was
And
it.
how
That
long
was-
had you been together?
at that time?
Yeah,
Or
at that point
now?
when he was like going to be moving
4 months.
back home.
Yeah, 4 months.
4 months.
Okay.
Okay.
But we had only gotten really to see each other, well, 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
So it was like very condensed.
Condensed, like you're seeing each other on the weekends, and
Yes, when you were moving back to the States, it was kind of like, okay, well, it's going to be a bit more difficult, but, you know,
Yeah.
we have travel benefits. We can still somehow maybe
Yeah.
figure it out. And then I remember on December 26th, right after Christmas Day, I was put on this, like, what we call like a block of standby duties. We used to get this block of 2 weeks every year. And you just like dread those 2 weeks because you could go anywhere. And I was really lucky. They sent me to San Francisco for 5 days.
Okay.
And I remember sending like Scott a message to say, oh, they just put me like on a San Francisco trip. I'm going to be there for 5 days. So it could be worse, but you know, that's what they gave me. And that was it. And then like took off, landed in San Francisco, and turned up, and he was waiting in the lobby.
Oh my God.
That kind
That's
of like was sort of like, well, maybe this
cute.
could work somehow.
I was fortunate enough because my mom's British. I could move to the UK and Ireland. So as part when I went back
Oh.
to the Middle East, I also transferred over to London. We had an office in London, so I transferred to London, which made it. I was in London, but really, I was commuting between Ireland and Doha
Right.
for a year and a half.
super close together. This is like such an international love affair.
There's so much
I-
logistics in this. I love
Lots
it.
of
of
logistics.
movies.
But it was great too because when I was in Doha that second time, you know, if Thomas had like 4 or 5 days off, he would fly down for the weekend or during the week when I was working.
Oh, sure.
And just kind of hang out at the hotel and bump
was
into
nice.
Gordon Ramsay in the spa, like that type of thing.
Okay.
Just a little jaunt to Qatar.
He's a very different character. He's a nice guy.
Is he?
Ooh.
In real life.
That's like an eternity ago. Like it's crazy. Like looking back, how far we've come.
I know. I love this.
Yeah, this sounds like another life.
I'm
Like,
like,
guys are like bouncing around the globe, dating each
I
other.
felt stressed out enough just like living halfway across the US and like trying to figure out how to make that work between us, and you guys are like, well, I was jumping from San Francisco to Dallas to London to Dublin to Doha, and like just making
Yeah.
this
Well,
little,
there's a
like-
will, there's a way, I guess.
oh my Lord, that's awesome.
Yeah. So then we talked about having a civil partnership because marriage wasn't a thing back then. So we did that in 2012.
Was that in the US or in the UK
Or
That was in
both.
Ireland.
or Ireland? Okay.
Ireland.
Yeah, so we had one of our favorite venues. A lot of your friends came over. We had it over July 4th weekend. An amazing time. And then I was commuting back and forth to London. I switched over to British Airways and based myself in London. And then the conversation came up, you know, what about maybe becoming dads?
Wow.
And it was just conversation that started to roll very quickly and things started to like fall in place. And so 2012 we had our civil partnership. In 2014 we were dads to the boys through surrogacy.
Jeez, that moved fast. Okay, so like this goes
Wait,
from
oh my
Qatar, Dublin, London. When did you make the move to Dallas?
Yeah.
That was after our boys, so they were about 1 when we moved over here.
Oh my God.
Wait, so you
Okay.
had, but where did you do surrogacy then? Because you guys
In
had your twins.
California. Yeah,
In the US.
California.
California. Okay.
But you were living in London.
Yes.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh, that's so stressful.
Which adds a whole
That's
nother
so-
layer of complexity with that. But yeah,
But
so
you were a U.S. citizen,
Mhm.
so did you have
Dual
British.
citizenship,
And
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, dual citizenship. So then, was that helpful to be a U.S. citizen doing surrogacy in the U.S.? I'm assuming because there's
Yes,
like
it was.
international things, right?
Yeah,
International
I mean,
fees
international
or whatever.
surcharges. I
Yeah.
don't know how it was 10 years ago, but
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly, it complicated the matters being international, but we wanted to do it in the US because we looked at the UK versus the US, and there are different laws in the UK around surrogacy that we were less
And from
comfortable
state to
with.
state in the US.
And then state to state, yeah, looking in the States, we thought California was the best. And I remember they had
Right.
an alternative parenting conference in the UK, in London, and you were traveling at the time, and I went. And so we were looking at like surrogacy agencies, they had co-parenting agencies, they had adoption agencies. And, I remember meeting a couple of folks and they're like, figure out one thing to anchor around and then build your team around it. And we had heard about this one doctor that was really good in California, this fertility doctor that was really good. And so we anchored like our team around that.
Perfect. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so that's how we started the process. And Thomas was still traveling as crew at the time. So he was able to fly over a couple times to California. We were there for their 20-week, their embryo transfer, a few other visits. But I remember going to work and being like, so what's the parental leave, or what do we get for like medical visits as intended parents through surrogacy? And they're like, we've never had that question asked before. So I think a lot of our surrogacy journey too was just kind of, we were navigating through the dark, really. Like we didn't really have anyone that had gone through it, and the resources online were very slim
Scarce.
at the time, and scarce.
I mean, this is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's murky enough now. Had you seen somebody go through surrogacy before? Like, had you seen people go through surrogacy before? Did you know any gay couples that were dads? Like,
we didn't know anyone personally. I mean, you see like the celebrity that goes through it or whatever, but that's kind of like the extent of we knew. No, so that was kind of how we decided. I mean, the surrogacy process for us went a lot quicker than we had anticipated too. I remember we had the conversation.
Very fortunate.
We found the doctor. He said, talk to these 3 surrogacy agencies. We interviewed all the agencies. One of them we matched with. Well, we decided to go with.
Right.
Sure.
We found an egg donor at some point, and it was just like boom, 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 and then it was like we did the first cycle, and we had twins, and it was just like.
It was like everything fell into place at once. It was just amazing. So
that's incredible.
Quite a difference from our journey going at a snail's pace.
I know. We're like just crawling through this thing right now.
You're just like boom, boom, boom. Let's have a baby. This is awesome.
It just happened that way. I mean, we were actually expecting it to take a lot longer to do everything.
That's true.
Was there a lot of red tape to cross or complications through like going through that process, or did it seem just that everything kind of clicked and went forward?
So during the egg donor, so the way that worked with our agency was the surrogate agency said, we'll pair you once you find an egg donor. Like they wouldn't let us pair with it. We're like, okay. And I remember we looked at so many egg donors through multiple agencies, and it was just like, it was a little overwhelming. And then we got down to 2 that we liked from the first agency that we looked at. After going through all this, you go back to like the original one, you're like, all right, these are the 2. And so our fertility doctor went through the profiles and said both of them are good and all that. And then we get a call from the egg donor agency, and they're like, your egg donor's been like double booked. And we're like, you can
my God.
book an egg donor?
Double booked.
And so that created a bit of complexity.
You're like, this isn't a restaurant reservation. Like, what do you mean?
This isn't a flight.
Exactly. And they're like, we can give you 3 other alternatives. And we're like, it's exactly. No. It's not like you want the chicken versus the beef. There's like a lot more that goes into it, right?
Yeah,
and looking at medical history, and so that was one. And then I guess the only other one was our surrogate had a little fender bender one time.
Yeah, I mean that's not a nice phone call
when we were in London.
That she got into a car accident. Yeah.
She was fine. Somebody drove into her. But she got checked out, but like still it kind of just like rattles you a little bit, and you
totally you're like, are the babies gonna come early? Was there anything that happened, but no, it was all okay. And then we thought they were going to arrive early, and then it was like, okay, we better get over there because we had one last like solo dad trip like booked before we were like in the middle of things. And it was like, instead of going that way, we're going this way over to California. And so we got to hang out there for a little while. So they stayed in, and we were just like really lucky. We didn't have any NICU or anything like that. And
really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
A dream.
Yeah.
A dream.
So how many weeks?
They were basically full term from twins.
Full term for twins. Yeah.
Which I think they say is 37?
No,
38?
I can't remember exactly, but it could be anywhere from 36 to 38.
Oh, yeah, I want to say 36 is
minimum
twins.
they want you to be.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, they're like, they've baked long enough. There's no more room in there for them to grow.
Yeah.
They're still baking.
They went to the opposite. They're like, instead of keeping them in, they're like, we need to get
off
them
you
out.
go. Yeah.
So then you were living in London. You bring your twin boys home to London, and then you're like, London's cute, but what about Texas?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we
I feel like
left
Thomas has some
reasons-
trepidation over that.
There were a few conversations we had over it. I think one was we didn't have any immediate family close by in London proper.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
yeah.
one of our sons had had a few medical things, and I was traveling still for work, and it was like, well, maybe that's it.
Just
and
have
then
like a support network. But then a lot of your friends, because they're like the same stage of life as us, they were having kids, and you know what you can get for your money in London is a lot different to what you can get over here.
yeah.
Right, exactly.
But then you can't have it both ways. I mean, London is London. It's
Yeah.
like a great place, but it's a trade-off.
But Texas.
Did it take a lot of convincing for you to move to Texas?
I'm still
convincing me.
Still convincing you?
I honestly,
We're still in the trial period.
I mean, similar comparison to like moving to South Dakota.
Yeah, so I'm from South Dakota,
to
and
where your
like
family is
I just-
from here.
the amount of like, I just can't even imagine Matthew living there,
It
like
just
long
It just
term.
would not. It would not. It
There's
would
only,
not
one,
compute.
there's only one way to find out, for real.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
no,
we've
no.
already done that. I've gone to Nebraska for 4 years. We know it doesn't work.
We're lucky though, because his family's close to us here.
Yeah.
In Oregon.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
So
yeah.
that was part of when we were trying to figure out what to do after I was done with school. Is like, well, he lived in Seattle, loved Seattle, but like Portland is like way more affordable and closer to family. And like eventually, if we want to have our own family, having that support system, it's this. I totally understand that too.
Yeah,
You're just
100%.
like, okay, well, one of us is sick, or like,
That's the thing is if we didn't have a support system here, then it would be a different kind of conversation. It's just that,
yeah.
like, yeah,
My
Portland
sister-
versus South Dakota.
My
man.
sister's actually moving back to South Dakota right now because of this exact reason.
from
Phoenix. And like, she was not really that excited, but now I think they kind of are, just
Totally.
because it's so hard. And especially now with like small kids and how expensive like childcare is. It's just like,
And affordable housing and all of that,
Ugh,
just to have
yeah.
enough room to have a family, and it's
so it made a lot of sense to move to Texas.
Texas.
It wasn't a passion project. It was more of like a,
necessity.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll put it like that.
How long have you been? So you've been in Texas. That would have been
2016,
if they're 9,
we moved
2016.
over. Yeah, so 8 years.
it's like 8 years.
But I mean, I go back home. COVID was like a long time to go without getting back to Europe, so it was like the guts of 2 years, almost certainly a year and a half. So I try to go back every 2-3 months.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Oh, that is really nice. Yeah.
And the boys love going over there. You know, we spend our summers over there. The countdown is already on. We're headed straight over once school is out. So we love
Amazing.
we love going back across the pond for a break.
It's like a bi-continental family.
Beyond,
I love that.
Beyond just like having the option to live in Europe and then living in the US, I think it'd be interesting to talk about just like your experience as a gay couple. Well, I guess you moved to Texas as gay parents. So
Yeah.
you weren't just navigating like, oh, let's move to Texas, the Dallas area, and like be a gay couple and like try and figure this out. You're like, and we have a family. So now we're trying to figure out.
That is the big question of like, yeah, what's it like living in Texas?
Yeah, what's it like living in Texas as
Cowboy
gay parents?
country as gay parents and as a
Cowboy
gay-
country.
Cowboy country. Come on.
Well, I have to caveat that by I think living in Dallas and the metroplex around Dallas might not be the same as like everywhere.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's I mean, there's a lot of, especially over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of people from like California that have moved into the area, and so there's like
Oh, for
a little
sure.
bit of a
Okay.
different like sense of like how community, I guess. But yeah, that was honestly one of my fears coming back here was like, will I get the stuff that I like? Will we
That is-
get the same resistance that I had when I was in elementary, middle school, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually been very welcoming for the most part. I remember one of the challenges we had was looking for childcare for the kids in pre-elementary school because all these like Mother's Day out programs or whatever,
Religious
they're
based.
typically religiously based. So they're connected with a church or something like that. And so that was a bit of a challenge to find one that was like accepting of us. And we did find one, but it took us a little bit of hunting to find one. I remember calling one. We called one in particular, and we were on speakerphone in the car with the boys, actually. And we were asking about, like, will you be accepting of two dads? And they were like, well, we teach the Bible. What does that mean?
I'm sorry.
And
so love everybody?
And we're like, well, like for our kids being, and they're like, at the age that you're at, the kids are at, it should be okay.
But going forward.
But it was almost like, but in a couple of years,
it should be okay.
Yeah. So we, needless to say, we're like, thank you very much. Next call.
Was the end of that
thank you next.
So that was kind of a little bit resistant, but I think it's more like, it's more I don't think a lot of people are like overtly like negative towards to our faces. I think there's some education that needs to happen. Like, you get a form and it says like mom and dad, or they have like
all the
things.
time.
But
Yeah.
I remember, or like muffins with mom, and we're like, well, our kids have two dads, so do they get excluded from that?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
There's so many school associated things and traditions that are like very, very outdated
Heteronormative,
or archaic.
But Thomas had a good perspective on that, when we were giving feedback to the preschool at the time. Like, it's like there may be kids that don't have a mother at all because they have passed away or whatever. Like,
separated,
it's not as they're
knows?
divorced. There's lots of different reasons why you need to be more inclusive.
Right.
But we've taught the boys, like, to try to be inclusive of everyone else, so that way hopefully they'll be included too. But I don't think overtly to our face we've never had a really negative experience. If anything, it's people coming up to us and saying like, oh my gosh, your family's so precious, or things like that, which is great. Or you get like, I remember there was a little old lady that came up to me at like a Panera, and she's like, your boys are so blonde. Your wife or mother or their mother must be blonde. And I was like, well, the egg donor was. And I could see her being like, what does that mean? I take it as people don't come from ill intent. It's about people just don't know, right? And so it's about educating
or
people,
assume.
or people just assume, right? And
I mean,
so
it's very easy to make an assumption when you see a parent out, to assume that there is an opposite sex parent at home. That's how we grew up. That's just a very
Or you get like, we have our friends that we go with who also are gay dads, Jason, Joe, and they'll be like, oh, it's dad's night out. And it's like, well, every night's days, every day is dad's night out. So I don't think, but and it's also like, I think people who don't necessarily agree with our lifestyle, we just don't interact with them.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's.
Are you pretty comfortable? Are you pretty comfortable just like, when you're out and about or you're meeting new people and you're just like, oh yeah, my husband, or my husband this, my husband that, like, does that ever feel weird or like
it doesn't feel weird? And one of the things we did was we have the same last name now too, right? And I think that's important. And the reason why I say that is because as dads, it's important that we don't ever hide who we are, because we don't want our kids to ever feel ashamed of where they came from. And so,
totally.
if it's ever like we're uncomfortable being ourselves in any way, shape, or form, like, will they pick up on that, right? And so, but we're very old school. We're not PDA in public type of guys.
Same.
Like, we're just not. Like, I could probably count on one hand the number of times we've held hands in public, and the over a decade that we've been together.
16 years.
Yeah.
16 years.
I think some listeners are gasping right now because that is just, oh my God, how could you not hold hands?
Well, do you does it feel different when you're in Europe, like when you're back in Ireland, or if you're in London, or
still kind of the same?
Do you feel any different? Do you feel more comfortable? Does it
Well, I
change
think
your
I
perspective?
personally feel a bit more comfortable in Europe because that's where I grew up. I kind of have like the European mentality.
Yeah.
I do feel in America, like, no matter where I am, not just in Texas, I feel that I'm kind of sort of not like on my best behavior, but I'm kind of like
You're aware.
Respectful, or kind of, because as I said, I was like a flight attendant before, and like coming here was like great, and like growing up over there, you think like America, America, America. But it's not like until you actually live somewhere that you kind of like get a true sense of like culture. The culture is different, and I only realized that by like living here. So I find that I have
Yeah.
to be kind of respectful of culture all around. So it's not that I'm flashing who I am in front of everybody. I think there's like a when I go back over, like a mental security when I go
Yeah.
back
Right.
there, because I just know how people are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. I mean,
100%.
I think even sometimes when we're in Europe, like we feel almost just more comfortable in general. We live in like the most liberal city
I mean,
potentially in the US, like top 5 at least. But
Right.
but then sometimes maybe it's just because we're on vacation. I don't know.
I would, yeah, maybe your comfort's coming from the perspective of being on vacation, but when I think about like being a gay couple in other countries in Europe, I don't necessarily feel the same. I feel like I'm a little bit on guard or
Oh,
on
I don't
just
at all.
more in a more observant field of like, I need to respect this culture. I need to be careful how we're acting. Like, is this going to come off weird if I say this? Like, just more questioning my own actions to make sure I'm not offending anyone.
Just depending
Yeah.
on where you're at,
Yeah, but I
maybe.
think in most countries that I visit, even if they are super gay friendly, I don't want to offend anyone's culture, and so I have like an extra layer of like of being on it or like on of just like trying to make sure I'm acting appropriately.
Yeah, maybe.
Like Thomas was saying, there's this level of like awareness when you're in a different country because it's not the culture you
Yeah.
grew up with. It's not the one that you necessarily know in and out.
Yeah. What was it like having the boys start school?
We had like no issues really, but the whole, I suppose, the political environment that kind of developed like after starting has been like, worrying, because it's like, waking up the next morning, like what's the headline going to be? What's going to happen like with schooling? Like, can they say who they are? Can they say what they did at the weekend?
Did you pass like a don't say gay bill too? Or is that what you're referencing?
Well, I mean, the fear is always there, but
Okay.
the school district and everything is totally fine. And I did have the conversation with like the teachers. What happens if this were to be the case? And they said no, we're not going to exclude anybody, and they're reassuring. So I think, and of course we have like friends there. There's another couple, with their kids there, and
Yeah.
so
Okay.
we're kind of like we're not the only ones. So
Right.
What was the conversation like? I mean, sending them to school and them maybe having kids ask, like, where's your mom, or explaining to them, like, hey, a lot of families have a mom and a dad, but some families have 2 moms, some families have 2 dads. Like, did that happen pretty naturally? I'm
we
assuming
haven't
when you
really
teach them
had
early.
so many of those questions. Well, I mean, they're not telling us,
Yeah.
but the one thing that we did have was like one of the parents say, "Oh, my son like came home kind of like sad because your boys have 2 dads and he only has like 1 dad at home," and it's
Just like the opposite
Yeah.
happening. Oh my
I
god.
think we're probably maybe approaching the stage of where kids might start asking, especially maybe with the changeover to middle school, and because most of their peers would already know, and so when they're meeting like new people and certainly like early teenagers, I think the questions might come then.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
we've
funny,
I've
though.
had 1 or 2 parents like reach out to me too and be like, "Hey, like they're asking this, like how should I respond?" Like,
As in where the boys came from.
yeah, like
Yeah.
what you teach your 2-year-old versus a 5-year-old versus a 10-year-old is very different. You kind of peel back the layers of how they came to be in some ways, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
totally.
into all the biology of how kids are made yet. So like for them, like they don't need to know the details of all that yet.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on and sharing your stories.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
I have like
Absolutely.
learned a lot about you both.
Such a fun story. Oh my
Like,
gosh.
honestly, this like multinational love thing happening.
Yeah,
Flight
we're
attendant,
old.
flying different. I'm just like, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed.
So if you guys want to keep up with the VonBKs, they are at the VonBKs on Instagram, TikTok. There is a website, correct?
Yes.
VonBK.com.
Yeah. So, and to follow us or see what we're up to on the day to day, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, our website, all the places. We have a link down below. Click that. It'll send you everywhere at Michael and Matt.
And until next time.
No.
Wait, what? No. Oh,
Also,
sorry.
don't forget to review,
Oh,
5-star
we love
rating, all the
reviews.
things.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for supporting our podcast. Like, we are here because of you. We are
Yes.
here because of you.
And babies.
So and babies. But your support does mean everything.
Yeah.
Like those ratings, those reviews. That's what helps this podcast keep producing.
Yes, we love you very much.
All right, now it's time for the sign up.
Okay, until
Till
next time,
Daddy's
Daddy's out.
Good job, guys.